Welcome back to First Edition. Most of the province has been experiencing an amount of heat and humidity recently. Some people love it. Some people are pretty eager for the cooler weather to kick in. So do you think it's impacted your mood or behavior? Well, in tonight's edition of Get Psyched with Dr. Janine, we're going to talk about the psychological impact all of this hot, humid weather can have on us. Joining us now, of course, is Dr. Janine Hubbard. Great to see you again.
As always, and very timely topic, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not quite as humid today, but still not great for sleeping. So what type of impact can a heat wave have on us psychologically?
Well, it's really interesting, and I think it's important to point out that this is when we get unusual amounts of heat and humidity in places that aren't used to having it. So the farther north you go, I mean, if you live in Florida or Texas, you're used to kind of a constant heat. But for us here in Newfoundland, this is not what we're accustomed to. And it means that most of our homes and many of our businesses, don't have things like the air conditioning or the airflow to be able to cope with it. So there's actually some really fascinating research that looks at what happens to us when we are in the middle of a heat wave. And you've already pegged the #1 thing is we don't sleep well. And that has a huge range of repercussions, which I'm guessing most of us are feeling at the moment. Certainly, we know from the research, actually, unfortunately, there tends to be an increase in aggression and violence because a lot of people are become more short-tempered. They're irritable, which we know is a side effect of lack of sleep and just feeling uncomfortable. We know that there tends to be an increase in things like alcohol consumption. But big picture, we also know that just people tend to be just more tired, less energy, more difficulty focusing and concentrating, and just less motivation to kind of do much of anything, which like I say, I think is kind of how a lot of us are experiencing this at the moment.
So why does the heat and humidity have such an impact on us, and what can we do to feel better?
Well, it's multifold. Certainly that impact of sleep, I can't stress that enough, but also just sometimes we're just feeling physically uncomfortable, which can affect us. But the biggest thing is we're not doing all of our regular self-care activities. People who rely on outdoor physical exercise, for example, you're just not able to do it or do it in the same intensity that you're used to in this kind of weather. As I alluded to earlier, when it's really hot, we have a bit of a tendency to go and perhaps pour a cold alcoholic beverage or two. And sometimes with the heat, we also aren't feeling terribly hungry. So as opposed to a lovely balanced nutritional meal, supper becomes an alcoholic beverage and ice cream, which is fine for a night or two, but for a sustained period of time, obviously isn't giving us all of the good nutrients that we need to keep ourselves in a good mood. So from here on, basically it's embrace it, figure out fun ways to cool off. Go swimming if you can. If you feel safe, go see a movie. Go do something in the air conditioning. Have some fun with your kids. Pull out the popsicles. Pull out the watermelon. Have a water fight if you can. Anything you can to kind of embrace the heat. Get creative. Find some fun no-cook recipes that are, making use of our fresh fruits and veggies that we have right now. Go looking for some fun non-alcoholic beverages that, again, are going to help keep you hydrated. And I think the biggest thing is, remember, this isn't going to last. And before you know it, we're all going to be grumbling about the cold and the snow. And so just go with it.
And I'll have you in to talk about the cold and the snow soon enough.
We will indeed.
And I'm glad that a doctor has given me permission to have ice cream tonight, so that's good.
Wrong kind of doctor, but we'll go with it.
Dr. Hubbard, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Tony.